I've been on a quest to try to figure out how to make my Nana's 100-year-old traditional Southern potato salad recipe, tater salad, while maintaining my keto diet. My search is over, and I'm going to show you how to make it too. My Nana's tater salad is like no other potato salad that you're going to have. It's a Southern style, but she had a particular way of making it. It just brought out all the flavors. But unfortunately with the potatoes, it doesn't fit into my keto low-carb diet. So a while back, I ran across this guy on YouTube, Chris Cook in Nashville. If you've watched my carnivore mashed potato video, that's who I got that from. And basically I've taken his way of making potato salad, combine it with my grandmother's, and come up with the most delicious, low-carb, keto-friendly side dish that I've had. It's like a fusion of traditional Southern meets keto, carnivore. I don't even know what to call it, except delicious. Let's get right into this recipe, and I'll show you how to make Nana's keto tater salad. So here's what you're going to need to make the potato part of this potato salad. You're going to need a full carton of egg whites. I get these at Food Lion. That is 32 ounces of egg whites. You can crack the eggs if you want to and separate them, but man, this sure is a whole lot easier just to pour them out of here. You're going to need some cream cheese. You're going to need some Kerrygold butter. You're going to need some fresh mozzarella. Make sure you get the fresh kind because you need the moisture in that to make this come together. You're going to need some salt. You're going to need some plain beef gelatin powder, unflavored. You're also going to need some toasted beef gelatin powder. I've got some Parmesan Reggiano left over, so that's what I'm going to use. Normally I would use Parmesan, and in the original video, Chris even uses the Parmesan in a can, or as we like to call it, shaky cheese. So you can use that also if that's what you got. I kind of like to use the regular Parmesan and just grate it up. You're going to need some egg white protein powder. And the last thing you'll need is a little bit of heavy whipping cream just to get the consistency right. I've got everything measured out here. Of course, the egg whites, you're going to use the whole carton, so that one's measured. About 3 tablespoons of butter, a couple ounces of the cream cheese, 4 tablespoons of the egg white powder, about 3 ounces of the mozzarella cheese. The salt, I'm just going to throw a pinch in there, so no need to measure that. The teaspoon-ish of Parmesan cheese. And the heavy whipping cream, we're not going to measure because we're just going to add a little bit of that at a time to help this mixture blend up. So let's go over and get started. I've got my butter in the hex-clad pan. I've got this on about a medium heat. I'm just going to start mixing this around, coat the bottom of this pan. This thing does not stick. This is the nicest pan that I've ever had. It doesn't stick at all. I'm just going to get a nice even coat of that butter all over the pan. And make sure you check out Chris's video for some more in-depth instructions, but you can probably follow it pretty easy from this. Now that the butter is melted, I'm going to go ahead and pour in this entire container of egg whites. And I left it out for probably 10 minutes or so, just to let it get almost to room temperature. That's just going to help it cook just a little bit faster at a little bit lower heat. You want to make sure you don't brown these. It's not as important on this recipe as it is the mashed potatoes, because if you're doing mashed potatoes, you definitely don't want them to be brown. This, you're going to have a sauce over the top, so it's not quite as important, but the less brown, the better. Just going to move this around a little bit in the pan, just until it starts cooking. So while the eggs are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and add in everything into the Ninja. And put in the cream cheese, put in the mozzarella. I've got both gelatins together. The non-toasted on top and the toasted on the bottom. Just going to put a little bit of salt in there. Then I'm going to put in the Parmesan cheese. And so then I'll be ready. As soon as the eggs are done, we're going to put the eggs right in on top of that. And then we'll start combining it before we cook it. Now we got some action going on. These egg whites are starting to cook a little bit. You can see a few little pieces swimming around in there in that butter. Yeah, those things are happy right now. I'm going to let it cook a little bit longer, let it tighten up a little more, and then we're going to mix it up. So these are tightening up a good bit now. You can see a lot of cooked egg. I'm just moving it around to keep it from browning anywhere. And as this comes together a little more, I'm going to start breaking it up into little chunks. Let it get nice and dry in the pan. I'll show you what that looks like when it happens. Now the eggs are coming together real nicely. But you can see there's still some liquid in there. We'll cook all that out. I want these to be as dry as they can possibly be before we put them in the blender and blend them up. So while those eggs are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and preheat the oven to 275. It's going to cook low and slow. So what we're going to need to finish Nana's tater salad is some celery. You're going to need some sweet gherkins, no sugar added, of course. This one's sweetened with Splenda. The other gherkins have a ton of sugar in them, and this one has none. So much better choice. This is how we can make this recipe still and keep it keto. You're going to need 2 hard-boiled eggs. You're going to need a batch of my Duke's mayonnaise. We're going to use about a cup of that. You're going to need some yellow mustard. Now just get this kind at Walmart. It's one of the few things that companies just can't really mess up and squeeze carbs into. 0 carb, clean ingredients. One day they'll probably end up adding sugar to this, but for now it's still good. You're going to need some pimentos. Those are sliced. We're going to dice them. And you're going to need some fresh cracked pepper. I've almost cooked out all the liquid out of here, so that's looking really good. Another thing you can observe is when they stop smelling like eggs cooking and they smell more like butter, then you know you're almost there. It really doesn't have much of an eggy smell anymore. So now that these are good and dry, I'm just going to put them right in the blender on top of everything else that we put in there already. And I'm going to take them over to the Ninja and I'm going to blend this up. And we're going to make the potatoes for Nana's tater salad. We've got a full blender here. I'm going to put the lid on it. I lost this little plastic thing somewhere along the way, so I usually just get a paper towel, put over the top of it. I'm going to blend this on low, and I'll show you what it looks like. This is the best blender. I love this thing. I'm going to turn the power on. I'm going to put it on the dough setting, which is like the low. It's just going to start working this and incorporating all this together. It's going to get to a mashed potato consistency. Then we're going to take it out and I'm going to fold in the egg white powder. So I'll let this go for a few minutes and I'll be right back once this is fully incorporated. What I'm going to do is add just a little bit of this heavy cream just to help things out a little. Maybe a tablespoon. If you heard how the motor changed there, that's just going to help work all this together. In a second, I may need to take the top off and push that down in there, but this Ninja does a really good job of kind of pulling everything in. You can see it working right there. So it may end up grabbing this and bringing it down in. We'll see. This is all moving and shaking in there, so I'm going to go up one more level. See how that's working in there? It's like a tornado in there. Pulls everything to the middle. Brings it down through there. It's going to come out perfect. I only added a tablespoon of heavy cream in there. If you can see this texture, it's kind of like a paste, but it's super smooth. And that's exactly what you want. So I'm going to transfer all this to a mixing bowl and show you the next step. Hey, if you like videos like this and you're not subscribed, subscribe down here and ring that bell. If you do a low carb or keto diet, I think there's some things on my channel that you're going to love. I transferred this to a bowl. So what I'm going to do now is just fold in this egg white powder a little bit at a time. So I'm going to do about a quarter of it, maybe about a tablespoon. So I'm just going to kind of fold it in like that a little bit at a time. Press it down to make sure that powder gets in there really well. Then I'll add in a little more. And do the same thing. Just make sure that's really well incorporated. So fold it over, press it down. We don't want any air bubbles, and we want to make sure that egg white powder is consistently through this mix. Now all that egg white powder is incorporated into here, and we're ready to put it on a baking sheet. As you can see, I've got my favorite mixing bowl here. If you watched any of my other videos, you may remember the story about this mixing bowl. So I hope at least one person was paying attention. So if you were, you know the story of this bowl, leave me a comment down there. We're going to take this over I've got a parchment paper lined baking sheet. We're going to put it on there and spread it out. I'll just give it one final stir just to make sure that egg white powder is incorporated in there. Now I'm going to pour it all on the middle of this parchment paper. And if you saw my other video, you'll know my parchment paper trick of how to get it to stay flat, not roll up on you. Try to keep it all together in the middle. So what you're trying to do here is spread it out to about a ½ inch thick, because we're going to bake this. It's going to become our potatoes for Nana's tater salad. It's going to bake kind of like in a big block like this. We're going to cut it into little squares. And then the other thing you want to do here is just get your edges right. You don't want it being thin on the edge where it might burn. So just try to tighten it up like that. I'm going to throw this in a 275-degree oven, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. We're going to go 30 minutes on this. And we'll take it out after 30 minutes, let it cool, and we're going to cut it into taters. So I've got all my ingredients chopped for Nana's tater salad dressing. So I've got ½ cup of celery. I've got a cup of the sweet gherkins, 2 hard-boiled eggs chopped, and 2 tablespoons of pimentos. I'm going to put those in the mixing bowl and then add in my other ingredient. Nana used to can her own pickles. My papa would grow the cucumbers and then she would can every fall. She had the best pickles. I feel fortunate that I have found these to at least get close. So I've given that a good mix. Now I'm going to add in a cup of my Duke's mayonnaise. How creamy that is. I'm going to add in a teaspoon of mustard. And she said a dash of Thousand Island dressing. I'm using this G. Hughes sugar-free Thousand Island dressing. A lot of times I'll make it myself, but I also keep this just to make it easy. So a dash, how much is a dash? I'm going to say about that much. Then the last thing I'm going to do is just some fresh black pepper. So that's it. I'm just going to mix this together, and we're going to wait for the taters to be ready. So when this comes out of the oven, this is what it looks like. It should have a nice golden brown color. And when you touch it, it should feel like a nice fork tender potato. So we're just going to slice it all the way down the length through the entire sheet. We're going to get some uniform pieces going on there. Basically, whatever size you like your potatoes and potato salad to be, that's the same thing you want to do with this. So just slice it all the way down, just like that, nice and slow, and cut it into bite-sized pieces. When you're all done, this is what it should look like. And now it's time to combine the taters with the tater salad dressing. So I just try to take the sheet like this and dump it into the bowl. And, well, I guess it was kind of a fail, but guess what? If you spill some, pick it up, throw it right in there, you're good to go. This is how Nana's tater salad looks like when it's done. It is the most delicious tater salad you're going to have, and I hope you enjoy it. And the way she always liked to finish this to make a nice presentation at the table was just sprinkle the whole top with some sweet paprika. We didn't have smoked paprika back then, so this is what she did. And it gave it a nice flavor. But more importantly, it made it look absolutely fantastic. So it's like a traditional Southern meets New Age keto carnivore wizardry. I really don't know what to call it except delicious. So now you've made the tater salad, you're going to need some things to go with it. And I'm going to put a playlist right over here that gives you some great other sides, some main courses, and some other recipes that I think you're going to love. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave me a comment when you make this and let me know what you think. My Nana would be real proud, I think, that I am keeping her recipe alive and sharing it with my community. Thank you guys so much for watching and all the support you give me on this channel, and I'll see you in the next video.